Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 142. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to talk about today is a brand new piece that I just picked up. It's the Masters of the Universe Origins Castle Grayskull. So, just recently, I did, I think, 7 or 8 videos where I went through my whole Masters of the Universe Origins collection. I did the first 5 waves of figures, and then I reviewed the deluxe figures. Then I reviewed the box sets, and then I reviewed some of the WWE kind of crossover figures with the Origins line. And in those videos, I told you that I was planning to get Castle Grayskull. I had it on pre-order from GameStop, but the other day, like 2 days ago, I was in Toys R Us. I was picking up a couple of other things, and I haven't seen Castle Grayskull anywhere here in my area. I'm up in Eastern Canada. I know people online have had Castle Grayskull for probably a few months now, but I haven't seen it anywhere. And even the pre-order I put in at GameStop, I think it says due out sometime in October. So yeah, haven't seen it anywhere, but I was in Toys R Us 2 days ago. I picked up a couple of things. And when I was paying for it at the cash register, they had a shopping cart behind the counter with a bunch of random stuff in there. Some of it was like opened, it looked like. And I saw Castle Grayskull sitting in the cart. And I said, is that like damaged stuff? And she was like, nope, that's just stuff that needs to go back out on the shelf. So I kind of impulse bought. I said, well, can I grab that? And I did. I maybe shouldn't have, because I get a discount for buying at GameStop because I have like an Onyx membership card or something. So it's basically tax-free if I had just waited. But there's always a slim chance that maybe GameStop doesn't get as many as they plan to, or maybe it gets delayed. Whatever the case might be, I figured it's worth a few extra bucks to get it early. So here it is. Here is Castle Grayskull from the Masters of the Universe Origins line. So this is a pretty big box. See here, and this is pretty exciting. Like it kind of takes me back to my childhood, and when me and my brother got the original Castle Grayskull back in the early '80s. I don't remember exactly what the box looked like on the vintage Castle Grayskull, but it was probably something like this. Had this really cool painted artwork on the front, which I think you're getting a pretty good shot of it here, but I'll probably do a little insert where I zoom in and show you all the details, because there's lots of cool stuff happening here. Like, for example, like you see a lot of the main characters. So there's Skeletor and He-Man fighting in front of the jaw bridge of Castle Grayskull. But then we've got Man-at-Arms fighting Merman there, I think. And then Beastman fighting Man-Faces over on the far side there. You've got the Sorceress and her white outfit, which they call the Temple of Darkness version of the Sorceress, and that version is actually included in the box set here, which is cool that you get an action figure. That always makes it a little bit more exciting. The artwork carries over to this side here, and it shows Fisto fighting some random monster. I'm not sure who that character is. He doesn't look like an established character. It looks like it could potentially be one of the 2 halves of the character Too Bad, who in, I don't know if it's always been this way, but at least in maybe the 2000X mythology and stuff, he was originally 2 characters that got merged together. So maybe that's a hint that we're going to get Too Bad soon. Or almost better yet, maybe it's an entirely new character. I would really like to see them introduce some new characters into the Origins line. And they slowly have been kind of teasing new characters on some of the packaging. There's also some like winged, like dragon bird things there, and there's some helmeted riders on the artwork there too. I don't know who those guys are. I don't think that's anything established. So again, that could be a cool future 2-pack with a, dragon bird and rider. On the other side, there's some more artwork there. We've got Panther and Battle Cat attacking each other. And did I miss anything here? Yeah, there's even more going on here. Like You've got Sheila and Trapjaw fighting there. And in the bottom corner here, you've got Evil Lynn, and she's like raising an army of, I don't know, skeleton warriors up out of the ground. And there's also Triclops. Who else do we got there? There's a lot going on here. Triclops and Ram Man. Anyway, really cool box. But it's not that thick. Like you see, it's relatively thin box, as opposed to, say, when I got the Snake Mountain from Super 7 earlier this year. That box was like a washing machine. If you didn't watch my video where I unboxed that, you can find that. So that was a really fun thing to unbox. This thing isn't going to be quite so crazy. It's probably half the size of Snake Mountain, but it was also substantially cheaper, so I'll take that. Also on the box, this is reminiscent of the old one here. You see all the features along the top of the box, so it shows you, like, it comes with a flag, and it comes with this little training device thing, and it comes with the throne with the trap door, the guns, the weapon rack, the working elevator, and it seals up so you can close it up and carry it around like a carrying case. So that's very cool. Lastly, on the back of the box, you get a nice image of the playset with the actual toys. So there's a bunch of figures from the various waves. You get some of the vehicles on here too, like the Land Shark and Panther. Very cool stuff. There's also a picture up here in the top corner that shows what the set looks like when it's opened up, and also gives you an idea of all the various pieces that you will find inside. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the box. So why don't we open this thing up and see what it's like? So I'm not going to make you watch me necessarily unbox this entire thing in real time. I know maybe some people are into that. Unboxing videos are pretty popular. I guess we'll see. If this thing is full of twist ties and all that sort of stuff, I'll either cut to the chase or maybe I'll put it on speed motion or something so you don't have to watch it. But right away, you open it up and you can see the castle in there. Looks pretty cool. I'm not sure how I hope everything doesn't just fall out on the floor here. But seems to just slide out okay. Yep, lots of components here in the back. Here's the guns and the little training device, the throne. And yeah, so that's that. Slid out of there very easily. All the pieces are kind of just tucked inside. And here it is. Castle Grayskull. Pretty cool. So it feels very lightweight. I don't want to say it feels cheap, but it doesn't feel super expensive. Like I can lift that with one hand, easy, very light. It's, as you can see when I flip it around here, it's all hollowed out. So it's just this plastic shell, nothing really super elaborate going on inside there. Now right off the bat, one of the first things I noticed about this thing that I really like is the jaw bridge here, because I actually do have the vintage Castle Grayskull. It's sitting on a shelf right up there, and I don't know if I'll actually haul it out of there because I've got some figures displayed on it and stuff. Plus I probably don't have enough room to do a side-by-side comparison, but maybe later I'll get that thing down. But regardless, the jaw bridge on the vintage one was just solid green like the rest of it. So to get it painted with that like wood, and it's not a super elaborate, it doesn't look like there's a elaborate wash or anything over it. It's just brown and silver, but it really kind of adds to the look of the thing. Although to be honest, maybe I spoke too soon, because I really do like the look of that wood door. It adds some color. But at the same time, if the door is just wood, it seems like it'd be a lot easier to get inside. The fact that the original one was green, and I think it was still sculpted to look like wood, but the fact that the green matched the outside structure of the building, it kind of gave the impression that maybe it was made of stone also, which would make sense that, you know, Skeletor has such a hard time getting inside Castle Grayskull. But anyway, yeah, the door looks cool. As far as paint apps go, there is some here, which, so you've got some brown on these roofs here, which is pretty cool. Other than that, there's not a whole lot. There's a little bit of a wash on the front. There's some brighter green, and of course the black in the skull's features. But yeah, my initial impression is this is pretty much exactly what I was expecting, and I love it. So we'll set this guy aside for now. And what do we got here? So we got the throne, and so this here has got the little bottom. You have to plug that peg in, so when you turn that, that will open the trap door. This here looks to be some sort of weapons rack. It's kind of it's shaped like an eagle. There's an eagle. I don't know if you can see that there, an eagle face on it with eagle feet and some feathers. So I don't think we got anything equivalent to this in the vintage Castle Grayskull. It doesn't look familiar to me, but it looks like something where maybe you store swords on it or something. Then we've got this thing here. This thing was included in the vintage Castle Grayskull, although I think this thing was a little flatter and less 3D. So it's got like a boar's head. Have you seen this? A boar's head on one side and a big fist on the other. And the idea, I think, was just supposed to be He-Man would train and this thing would spin and he'd fight it, you know. So whatever. Cool. Then you got the double turret gun, which is just like out of the vintage playset as well. So yeah, this thing moves up and down, and it's meant to go up here so somebody can man the gun from the top of the tower. Then we've got the weapons rack, which is just like the one that we had when we were kids with the vintage one. This one appears to be, at first glance, I would say it looks quite a bit smaller, but maybe that's because my hands are a lot bigger than when I held this thing last time. Because even though I have the vintage Castle Grayskull up there on my shelf, I don't have any of this stuff. The Castle Grayskull up there is not the one I had from my childhood. It was the one we had when we were kids was actually my brother Doug's, and I don't think he kept it. But then I found this one, actually a friend found it for me at a flea market, and it was just the shell, so I don't have any of the internal stuff. And as much as, you know, it kind of sucks that I don't have this stuff, the thing that sucks to be missing the most is the floors, because Castle Grayskull has these slots here where you can put in a secondary floor, and that really makes it, you know, a bit more of a play set than just something to stand in front of. So I don't have the floors with my vintage one, so this is going to be nice to actually have some floors here. Which, speaking of the floors, so here's the one, and now this hole here is for the elevator. So there's a working elevator, you pull the string, the thing goes up and down, just like the vintage Castle Grayskull. And then we've got this floor here. Now this is the one where you plug the throne in here, and then this trap door would work. So here's how the device works. You turn this, and then the floor. Oh, there we go. And then the floor gives way. So that's always a cool device, just like we had when we were kids. What else we got? The ladder. Now this actually looks a lot more substantial than the one that came with the vintage set. Probably about as tall, but it seems to be quite a bit thicker. I remember the other one being pretty narrow. So this one actually looks like it could maybe support an action figure. Here we've got bagged up the sorceress and the stickers. So let's pop this open here. So here is our Temple of Darkness sorceress figure. So she's looking pretty cool. We're actually going to get this figure, she's coming out in a future wave pretty soon, in her more standard cartoon colors with the blue and orange wings that probably more people are familiar with. But still, it's cool to get this design here. We'll take a closer look at her and all this other stuff a little bit later. We got the instruction booklet here. Nothing too exciting here. Pretty straightforward. So here are the stickers, including everybody's favorite, the kind of like dungeon sticker, which sits on the bottom of Castle Grayskull that has all these creatures poking out. You know, everybody loved that from the vintage toy, and Super 7 even went on to make a like a real mat of this pattern that you could buy to put in your like man cave or something, which I always thought was really cool. I would have loved to have gotten that, but it was pretty expensive. What else we got? Another little box of stuff. So, this is where it gets boring watching me open all the bags and stuff. Let's get past this tape. So here we've got the flag. And what's cool about this is it's actually got a stand on it this time around. So you can put that anywhere. I know you can't see it, but you can put it on the floor, you can put it on a gun turret, you can put it wherever. The vintage one, it just had like a clip, if I recall. So you had to clip it onto the side of the floor because it wouldn't stand up on its own. So I like that this one has its own display base. That's cool. So here's the sorceress's staff. So I know it's hard to tell with this lighting right now, but this is solid white. So that matches up with her colors nicely. And then these other weapons, they might look the same color on camera, but these are actually kind of more of a gray, bit of an off-white. And these are the kind of generic weapons that are intended to go on the weapons rack, like so. So you've got these kind of just generic weapons that you can display like that. Now what do we get here? So, okay, so this is another floor piece. So there isn't a third floor per se, but up here in the towers, there's a spot for some more flooring. So you'll see it here. So the main floors go here in these slots. And then there's these other slots here. There's 3 spots for them on the top. And so that's so you can have somebody standing out in the various towers. So here's one of the floors to go in there, and it's got this little cloth banner hanging down there. So that's cool. We didn't have that in the vintage toy. We got this computer panel. So this attaches to one of the interior walls. The vintage toy had this too, but if memory serves, I think it was either just a sticker or a piece of cardboard. So the fact that we have this sculpted out, that's pretty nice. And then this here, I think, is just part of the elevator. And here is another floor piece for one of the other towers. And this is the last little bag. And it has got another little floor piece. This one also has a little flag that hangs down there with a little dragon design. And lastly, this is just some more gadgetry to plug into the wall of Castle Grayskull. Maybe this is the controls to the elevator. So yeah, pretty cool. And to enhance some of these pieces, like for example, this computer panel, like that screen looks kind of bland with just the plain gray. But with the stickers, so we've got the dungeon, which just goes on the floor of the actual castle. This outer space scene here is the sticker that's going to go on the computer screen to kind of liven that up a little bit. These 2 things here with the crossing swords, those are actually going to go on each side of this so that the flag isn't just a plain gray flag. And this elaborate thing here, that is, I don't know if we call it a rug, but I guess it's a rug that goes over the trap door. And then lastly, there's another little sticker here for the computer panel, I guess. And then this little trap door, which I don't think we had that in the vintage Castle Grayskull. But I'm not sure where that goes, to be honest with you. But we'll find out soon enough. I might have to defer to the instruction booklet for where that little trapdoor sticker goes. Okay, so that was the unboxing, the big reveal. Pretty cool stuff. I'm excited to start putting all this stuff together. So why don't I do that, and we'll come back and we'll take a look at it once I've got it fully assembled. So here is Castle Grayskull fully assembled. I actually just shot a whole video of me putting this together piece by piece, and then I realized I lost the I lost the video. I hit delete instead of save. So originally you had an opportunity to watch me put this together one piece at a time, but my error has probably saved you the trouble of watching me put this together. And now you just get to see the finished product. So let's get in here and take a closer look. So here are the weapons rack. So there's no right way to necessarily display these weapons on here, and you could use some of the weapons that come with your existing figures to put them on here. You know, there's clearly more spots available than there are weapons that came with Castle Grayskull, so you could definitely add a few of your other weapons to these things. But they look pretty cool, and you know, they're good to just place out in front of the castle. You could place them in here. There's lots of room on that bottom floor, but I feel by putting them out here in front, it kind of expands the castle grounds and make it feel like a bigger play area. So here is the training device, so you can see in better detail now that like boar's head, and this thing just spins around like so. It's hard to do it with one hand, but you get the idea. There is the dungeon sticker, all in place. I'm pretty proud of myself that I got all these stickers on as straight as I did. That is not always the case. So here you see the jaw bridge, and I was wrestling around with this thing for a little while, and I think I have to wrestle with it a little bit more. You see how it's leaning inside of the castle? I think whoever assembled this, because the door was already attached when I pulled it out of the box, has put it in wrong, in that the jaw bridge should fall forward so that, you know, people can enter. But you'll see here it doesn't have enough clearance, and I tried to push it down and it just won't get through there. So I have to kind of force this through there, but I didn't want to risk breaking anything. So when I'm not kind of rushing to put this video together for you guys, I'll have to mess around with that a little bit further so the door like falls outwards instead of inwards. So here is the sorceress, so you get a better look at her. So she looks really nice. And like I said, we are getting this figure again in a future wave in the classic colors. I don't know which one I prefer. I kind of like this one. I think it's kind of grown on me. So yeah, that's pretty cool. If we pan up here, you'll see I've got the sticker on the trapdoor, as well as this little sticker, which I didn't know where it belonged before. I now see that it belongs on the throne. So that looks good rather than it just being a piece of orange plastic. So I'll try to do this with one hand, but you'll see the trapdoor in action here. So there you go, that's how that works. You get a better look at the little banner hanging down here. Here is the floorboard. Now you'll notice it's got like a little peg on there, which is great, because the vintage Castle Grayskull did not have that. And the Origins figures do have holes on their feet, so you can actually stand them up there and hold them in place, and you don't have to worry about them, you know, falling off of the upper floors if you bump your Castle Grayskull wrong. So yeah, there's a couple pegs. You'll see a peg there for standing as well. So there's a couple throughout. The throne, I can show you somebody sitting in there later. She's not a good fit for it because of those wings on her back. They don't really allow her to sit in the throne. So it's kind of too bad that the one character that comes with the castle can't actually sit in the chair. But, you know, that's fine. Skeletor will look good in there or something. So there we have the gun. And here we have the flag. So there's also a peg for characters to stand on there. And the flag, it's actually got a peg, both the flag and the gun. There's a hole in the bottom of them and a peg that inserts into the bottom. So that way you don't have to worry about them falling off either, which is nice. And the flag, just like on the vintage castle, it's got like kind of this like purple swords on this side, and on the other side there's like orange swords, which I think are supposed to be the evil and the heroic versions. So when the bad guys have control of the castle, you can display it with the evil flag out, and if the good guys take the castle, then you can flip the flag around and display the good side. Now it's going to be too hard for me to do with one hand since I'm holding my tablet up like this, but trust me, that spins around relatively easily. So we come over here. So you see I've got the elevator installed. There's the control panel with the outer space scene. So let's just get the elevator to work here. So let me just set this down. The elevator you can just kind of push down like so. And there's a peg on the elevator. Again, I don't think we had that on the vintage one. So let's just say the sorceress wants to go up the elevator. You can put her on there. Now I didn't get her on there very tightly, so hopefully she stays on. But then you just pull this little gargoyle here, and the elevator goes up, and it locks in place when you get to the second floor. So yeah, she tumbled off her peg, but she made it up there. Alright, what else we got? Now this is another cool thing with the ladder. So the ladder in the vintage one, it just kind of like was loose and rested anywhere. I usually used it like just kind of like this, and it very easily fell out of place. And even on the box, it shows the ladder just kind of leaning like this. So you see here's the back of the box again, and they just have the ladder kind of resting against the windowsill on the outside. And then up here on the insert where it shows the inside of the castle, again, it just shows the ladder resting against the edge, which is how I did it when I had the vintage Castle Grayskull playset. So I was pleasantly surprised when I was putting this thing together to notice that there are some peg holes on this second floor, and there's even a couple little notches in this third floor. So the ladder actually has a home, and it stays in place very nicely. So you put those in there, and you lean those into the notches, and there you go. So now our heroes have a way to get up to the upper levels there. So here's the castle a little bit more populated. So you see we've got Merman up here manning the gun, and I've got his foot on the peg. So that helps keep him nice and secure up there. Beastman, I've got him climbing the ladder. So the fact that he's teetering over like this actually shows you how well that ladder will support their weight. Because obviously if this ladder was just leaning down here, that wouldn't work. And we've got Skeletor sitting in his throne. He-Man's in for a rude awakening here. Now that wasn't as graceful as it could have been because I was trying to do that with one hand, and I'm trying to be careful not to muffle the microphone. When I hold the tablet in any of the four corners, I cover the microphone and you get this really annoying muffling sound. So I apologize if you're getting any of that. But yeah, I almost pulled the whole floor out there when I tried to turn the throne. But I don't think it would normally be that difficult if you were using both of your hands. And there you go. He-Man survived the fall. He didn't land in the dungeon. But yeah, there you go. So that's Castle Grayskull. Now, if you were wondering size-wise how this compares, I don't have the vintage Castle Grayskull down from my display yet, but I do have this currently sitting next to my Super 7 Snake Mountain, which is where I'm currently housing all of my Origins figures. So if I pan over here, you'll see here's the rest of the gang on their giant Snake Mountain. So maybe if I back up a ways, you can get a wider shot of this. So there you go. There's our Origins Castle Grayskull next to our Super 7 Snake Mountain. Now it is obviously dwarfed by Snake Mountain, but really a castle probably should be dwarfed by a mountain. But as I mentioned earlier, the cost between these two was significant. So honestly, I love this Snake Mountain. I think it's really cool. But given the cost and the 2-year wait that it took from when I pre-ordered this to when I got it, I probably would not have bought this if I knew the Origins line was coming out. At the time, it seemed like the Masters of the Universe Classics line, which I have displayed over here. So these are larger, more detailed figures. This line was coming to an end, and the Snake Mountain was like the last thing they were making. So I thought we weren't going to be getting any Masters of the Universe product for quite a while. But as it turns out, we get the Origins line. They're much more affordable, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Snake Mountain in scale with the Castle Grayskull soon enough. And if I could have got a Snake Mountain for $85 instead of this, the cost of this thing, which I can't even say out loud without crying a little bit, yeah, I definitely would have done that. So I'm not going to do a complete side-by-side, but again, that's Castle Grayskull. Here is the vintage Castle Grayskull. It's about the same size. I think the vintage one may be a little bit taller. And you can see detail-wise, the paint is a little bit different, the sculpt is a little bit different, but very, very similar. Now, before we wrap this up, I do have one complaint, not really about the castle so much, but in every past version of Castle Grayskull, up here on the second floor, there was a suit of armor. It kind of looked like a spacesuit. And, it was always kind of a mystery of what the deal of that spacesuit was. In the vintage Castle Grayskull, it was just a piece of cardboard. So just something to kind of add some color to the background, I guess. But then when the Castle Grayskull for the Classics line came out, which I did not get, he was more of a sculpted 3D piece, kind of like with these panels here. But he had no back to him. He was still kind of just like a hollow piece of plastic, even though he was fully sculpted, that plugged into the wall. So when this Castle Grayskull came out, the fact that there was no spacesuit, everybody noticed that right away. And we kind of hoped maybe they had plans to give us the spacesuit later. And sure enough, at PowerCon this year, which is the He-Man specific convention, they had a PowerCon exclusive set called The Secrets of Grayskull, which had the spacesuit, but for the first time ever, it was a fully articulated character. And so he's like the missing component of Castle Grayskull here. It also came with a cool little pit with some like vines or tentacles coming out of it. And another piece which was really cool is it had this plume of smoke in translucent plastic in the shape of a skull, which you could put up on one of these upper levels here. And that is straight out of the mini comics, which was my first exposure to Masters of the Universe when I first got the figures. And you had the mini comics, and that image of this smoky skull coming out of Castle Grayskull was just something really cool, and that like locked into my mind. And we've never gotten any sort of plastic rendition of that, and it was never something that I thought I needed until I saw it in this PowerCon pack, and I thought, how cool is that? So I really, really wanted that pack, and I'm very annoyed at how quickly it sold out. It was just like a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. They went up for sale on the website, and they sold out within seconds. Like, there was a couple of exclusives besides the Secrets of Grayskull set, but the Secret set is the one I really wanted. It was only $30. I put it in my cart, and by the time I hit checkout, that and everything else was yanked out of my cart, and it was gone. So a very frustrating experience, and it leaves my Castle Grayskull feeling a little incomplete. My hope is that if the Origins line goes on long enough, that eventually they will maybe release that character again, maybe at retail, which would be great because then he'd only be 15 bucks. And I would expect he'd have probably a little bit of a different color scheme or something, but that's fine with me. So fingers crossed that's what happens, because it really feels like a glaring omission in this Castle Grayskull. But otherwise, I think this thing is pretty great. And I suppose the last thing I should show you about Castle Grayskull here is that it folds up into a little carrying case just like the vintage one. So with very little effort, although bear with me because I'm trying to do this with one hand again. Oh, and by the way, there's the other side of the flag, so the heroic side. But this thing here, so I couldn't quite get it with my one hand, but you can see how it's got these little clips. They're not quite the same as the vintage one, but you can see how these would lock in place, and I'm sure it does fit snugly. I think the problem is that I've got the sorceress there and I've got my throne turned around, so there's probably a couple little adjustments you need to make in order for this to close properly. But you can see it's got these like pegs here and these holes on the other side, so that would help to hold it all together. And then around here there's a little spot for your hand. You can pick it up like that, like a handle, and you're good to go. So there you go. There is Origins Castle Grayskull. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and please leave me comments below. I'm always, I enjoy interacting with you folks. So yeah, any thoughts on this thing? Please let me know below. So I'll be back with another video soon. Until then, have a good one.